The Public Service Commission announced in November that it had denied over $40 million in rate increases to NorthWestern's customers. But the real story is a lot more complicated. This chart outlines key snapshots of what NorthWestern's residential customers were paying at different times since 2018. As you can see, rates have increased a lot since 2018 to now, and they've also increased a lot since July 2024 to the current time, which is when NorthWestern originally filed its rate increase application. Northwestern and the Public Service Commission have found themselves in a little bit of a rhythm where NorthWestern comes and asks for a really big rate increase, as we see when rates went all the way up. And then the Public Service Commission denies, in part, that increase and gives them something slightly less. But overall, it amounts to a big increase, while the PSC gets to say that they actually denied a rate increase and saved customers money. So how does this all keep happening? To tell the story, we have to dig in a little bit more. First, it's important to know that NorthWestern Energy is an investor-owned utility. It has an incentive to increase its stock price to the benefit of its shareholders. And how does it do that? It either increases the price of the electricity it sells you, or it tries to sell more electricity. While there has been growth in the number of residential customers that NorthWestern has been serving over the years, the actual amount of electricity used by those customers has stayed more or less the same for quite a while. So what we see is, instead of increasing the amount of power that NorthWestern is selling to those customers, they're able to increase rates instead to boost their profits. Second, it's important to know that rates for electric utilities are largely divided into two pieces. There's a fixed base rate that's tied into big infrastructure investments like a gas plant, and then there's a more variable part called the PCAM that we'll get into a little bit more, but is complicated and tracks costs that go up and down. Previously, NorthWestern Energy got approval from the PSC for a 28% increase in fall of 2023, and that's this increase we see here. While some of the variable costs did shift in that time, so we see slightly less than 28% represented, there was still a major increase to our bills. Then less than a year later, NorthWestern returned to the Public Service Commission asking for yet another increase, actually a 26% increase to base rates. And that's where we find ourselves in the second half of this chart. This current request had a number of pieces, including asking to have ratepayers pay for the expensive Yellowstone County Generating Station gas plant, as much as $2 billion over the lifetime of that plant, as well as trying to recover costs for future investments into the coal strip plant. After filing its application and while waiting for the PSC to approve its rate increase, NorthWestern pulled an unprecedented maneuver and actually increased rates on its own without permission, sidestepping the PSC's regulatory authority. That's what we see here, where rates shoot up even higher than they ended at the end of the rate case. And remember the PCAM that we talked about earlier? There's a lot of nuance, but I'm going to try to give you the cliff notes. The PCAM isn't inherently good or bad. It's just a mechanism that tracks the costs that are incurred over time that shift, such as changing costs of coal or gas, changing amounts of power sold or bought on the market, and it's adjusted every quarter so that rates reflect the costs that were incurred. It's supposed to ensure that the projections that NorthWestern make are in line with the costs that it actually incurs, and that it's charging customers reasonable amounts, and there's an opportunity to true everything up at the end. Unfortunately, for captive ratepayers, NorthWestern doesn't face much scrutiny in how it makes these projections and sets the PCAM costs. In the current rate case, NorthWestern lowballed its PCAM estimates, saying that it was only going to increase rates by 4% because, look, this is how much PCAM is going to reduce. But that's not actually what happened. Back in November 2024, the PSC approved NorthWestern's PCAM projections. But at the same time, in that temporary approval, they did not approve the base rate increase. So we actually saw an overall decrease to rates here. But then, like I mentioned, NorthWestern went ahead and implemented the base rate increase anyway in May, and then rates shot up to here. Following that, NorthWestern filed its quarterly adjustment for the PCAM to true up to what costs actually were. And then we see rates go up even higher because despite those projections, the variable costs were actually a lot higher. We see rates go down slightly shortly after that because NorthWestern did actually back down slightly that increase that it had implemented on its own accord. Now the PSC has issued its final order to decrease rates from this high water mark down to here. But if you just focus here, you don't realize that the overall increase to residential bills is actually a 12% increase from when NorthWestern filed its application back in July 2024. In other words, it's a bit of a shell game. NorthWestern is using the complexities of the PSC's procedures and rate making to obscure what's really happening to customers' bills at the end of the month. This is how the utility keeps getting away with raising our rates. It doesn't help that the PSC is complicit in this process. By constantly approving rate increases that are only marginally less than what the utility is asking for, the PSC is saving face, but they're not saving Montanans money. When you go from here to here, that's still a significant increase to our bills. Montanans can't afford to keep boosting NorthWestern's profit margins.